We are the seventh largest city in the United States. We're bigger than Boston. We're bigger than, wait, we're bigger than Boston. We're bigger than Portland. We're bigger than Seattle, right?
They all have trains. Yeah.
Or San Diego, right? We're bigger than all these places. We are a massively fast growing city. I'm not all of the area. And of course, those people deserve good transit. All people deserve to be able to have options where they don't have to rely on a truck for do their daily life.
Welcome back to Cities in Motion. I'm Jacob. This is the podcast for anyone who wants cities built for people. Each week, we dig into the systems, design, and culture that shape urban life and explore how smarter transportation, better planning, and thoughtful policy can make our communities more livable.
San Antonio is the seventh largest city in the United States, and it has virtually no San Antonio is the seventh largest city in the United States, and it has virtually no rail transit. Today's guest is one of the people trying to change that. Jesse Harasta is the co-chair and co-founder of San Antonians for Rail Transit, or SART, an advocacy organization making the case that San Antonio's answer to its transit problems can't just be more roads. Jesse co-founded SART alongside Samuel Haas, who brings a regional planning background to the organization, and together they've been building a real public voice around rail in a city that has historically resisted it. SART has already put out serious policy work, including a staged regional rail proposal connecting San Antonio and Austin, and they're not waiting around. Jesse and Samuel, welcome to Cities in Motion.
Thank you so much, guys. Meeting up. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell me about SART. Tell me about your background.
For almost 3 years, or 2 years, 3 years on the board. That's how that works. Our planner. I work for a local firm here in San Antonio called Maple City. We do planning, architecture, economic development, community engagement, lots of that. We do a lot of different planning and design things for cities.
My name is Jesse Harasta. I am also a co-chair. Founders of the organization. So, by training, I'm a linguistic anthropologist. So these days, I work for a small liberal arts university, our Lady of Lake University, with student volunteering in the operation of community.
Okay. Why don't you tell me about the little bit of the history of SART? How did it get started? What were some of the problems you're trying to solve?
Yeah, so SART originally started. I was one of the folks who originally put it together. So we started as a Facebook group, actually, a place for folks to just chat about. But, me and Robert, who was my co-founder and the original co-chair, some other folks who were involved with time, we kind of had a strategy that we put together. We wanted to use the social media presence in order to build an organization. And our thinking was that with the transportation problems in this city and the lack of public transportation problems was a huge issue, and one that was tied to so many other problems in the city. Problems of traffic, drunk driving, traffic problems of equity, problems of safety, of just bad design and being sometimes an unhappy place to live. And we thought that public transit was as a proposal. So we had originally discussed just moving the transit riders, but we decided to go for trains. Specifically, in part because we all just really liked trains. That was that. Is that can't be ever forgotten. But also because we kind of wanted to maximize. We wanted to go at this. We're going to demand a big thing. We're going to demand trains. And we're going to hope that also we get some buses along the way. But if we ask for buses only, all we're going to get is buses. Never going to get trains, right? But if we demand trains, maybe we'll get trains. We need trains. We need buses too. We need all forms of multimodal trains. But they're just going to go for that low-hanging fruit of buses if there's anybody, unless we're there pushing.
Over the coming weeks, we will continue to explore the people and projects that are putting our cities in motion. You can follow Cities in Motion on Instagram for behind-the-scenes content and updates for the show. I'm Jacob, and thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget to keep your cities in motion.
Do you think San Antonio deserves a really intricate rail system?
So we're the seventh largest city in the United States. We're bigger than Houston. We're bigger than we're bigger than Boston. We're bigger than Portland. We're bigger than Seattle, right?
They all have trends.
Of
Yeah.
course, San Diego, right? We're bigger than all these places. We are a massively fast-growing city. I'm not metropolitan area. And of course, those people deserve good transit. All people deserve to be able to have options where they don't have to rely on a truck to do their daily lives. Because first off, that's not fabulous, and lots of people don't like it, but also can't for various reasons. They can't. They maybe have a disability or economically, or they're just too young to travel, or whatever. They can't do it, and so we can screw those people from our city.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Jesse really said that pretty succinctly. I think there's has been past efforts to rail here. And one of the reasons that SART came to be is because when those efforts has come to a ballot measure and come to the voters, there has been a very well-funded and well-organized opposition to that. I think we serve our mission is to serve as the counterbalance to that. And, we're not well-funded but we are getting more and more well-organized. And if we can be that grassroots counterbalance to those well-invested interests, then perhaps we can get some nominal improvements to our rail system. And it's not all just, driving. There's a lot of good efforts that the city's making. There's a lot of emphasis on active transportation and bike and ped infrastructure, things like that. And now we're just saying, hey, let's keep the options going. Let's give people more options.
Yeah. I actually took my first Amtrak ride down here, from Austin, just to figure it out. And it was great.
Yeah.
I had a great time. I got here in the Amtrak station around like 10 o'clock. But on my way home, I'm probably not going to take it again because it's like this is the last day of my convention here. And it's inconvenient for me to get another night at a hotel and then wake up like at 6 a.m., which wish there was more, like at least 2 or 3 trips a day between
Sure.
Austin and San Antonio.
Yeah.
What are some of the puzzles you guys are putting forward?
Well, it's great that you say that. I'm gonna give this to Jesse because this is his baby.
Okay.
So we want all sorts of different things. But one of our sort of strategic priorities in the near term is rail development, right? Cities of our two sides, it's close to their two city side, but they don't have regular regional rail. It's certain, right? It makes this is the place where we want to talk about low hanging fruit for rail in the United States, where would be overwhelmingly wildly successful, cheap and easy. It's actually something, and they should be. There's no good reason why they should not be connected. And so we put together a plan that I was involved in the research team for a proposal for how to create that program. So we want it all in the end, right? But in the meantime, we recognize that there are real political, economic, legal constraints on what can be done, right? And so we've created a series of plans. Our plan is about stages. We say, we've done it right now with just local funding to truly improve the experience. But maybe you noticed when you were out there on the home station that there was no clock there. They did the sundown.
Yeah.
But that's not a great point.
No.
Right? And there shouldn't be that, right? And so one of the earliest things we said is like, okay, well, we should be pouring a platform so that folks can easily, not just folks in Richmond, but also elderly folks. For good climbing up and down those stuff. But that's a small, low step, right? But then we say we should be building this towards what we call a minimum viable service, which is how do we make it so that a person can come and go from San Antonio to Austin in the morning or vice versa, and then return at the end of the day. So you can spend a day in the other city.
Yeah.
Right?
Go see a show.
Absolutely.
Go visit your family. Go see an Austin FC game.
Exactly. Or just, spend the day. Why not? Car-free day out kind of thing. That's something that, we think is entirely possible, but it's relatively cheap when we look at infrastructure projects. Of course, infrastructure projects are not cheap.
Yeah.
This is a fraction of what it takes to elevate the highway. And that's what the state is doing right now, is they're elevating the highway between San Antonio and Austin. And we know what's going to happen. It's going to cost billions of dollars, and then it's going to have induced demand. It's going to fill back up.
It's going to continue to cost billions of dollars after that.
Exactly. And the maintenance on those flyovers, those elevated lines are just ridiculous. Right? We're paying for that forever.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas we could have the same results without the highway. Right. So we have, and it's on up on our website. We have a plan. It's quite detailed, I would say. We say very specifically, we've got budgets, we got timelines, we've got maps of where stations will go, proposals for lines and proposals for schedules, right? And we think this is an entirely doable near-term plan.
Yeah. You're showing up to the city council with all these plans, and it sounds like you're doing most of the work already. What's their opposition? Like, what are they saying? What are they telling you?
So, first of all, the closing is a regional scale,
Yeah.
collaboration.
Okay.
And so it's not just San Antonio.
Yeah.
It's not just Austin. It's all the communities up the 35 corridor that have to be involved in this, because in theory, yeah, we envision a express from San Antonio to Austin, right? But we also want the communities that are along the corridor to be involved too. And there needs to be like a commuter route that stops at like San Marcos, at Buda, at Schertz, like whatever, right? All these communities that are along the corridor. So to be honest, they say like good government is just a matter of good coordination. And that's really the idea is the seed. And then the work comes after that. Like we've done the planning.
Yeah.
Now it's time to get people in the same ring and start talking about it. There were some efforts. I think last year there was a passenger rail committee that was started by Judge Sakai and Judge Brown,
Yeah.
Travis County. We had some friends, some colleagues that were on that. They've been meeting, and so we don't know really what's going on with that. A lot of the momentum's just kind of stopped, and I think there's other things that get involved. We had I don't know if you know about this, for like the big Spurs bond
Yeah.
thing.
I saw the commercials.
Yeah. I think that kind of sucked all the air out of the room here
Okay.
for the county and for the city. There was a big push last year or a couple of years ago for transit-oriented development.
Yeah.
So San Antonio has overlays now for transit-oriented development, which is great. But that took a lot of political capital, right? And so now, like people, these things take cycles. You can't just keep. In one way, you want to keep the momentum going, but also in the same sense, like you can't just exhaust people with like think one thing after the other.
Yeah.
And so I think we presented this plan to city council yet? No. Like we have not gone before city council and done it. We have presented this idea to many stakeholders and decision makers. And I think we're planting the seeds right now of like, maybe we don't need shiny new $100 billion rail line to Austin. Maybe all we need is just one train set and a good timetable. And really importantly, we need an agreement with Union Pacific Railroad to let us use their track. So, and that's a big hurdle there as well.
Get people. Yeah, go for it.
One of the things I think that's important about our show here is that one way that we differ from a lot of our partners, we have lots of partners that are organizing the design and great projects. One of the things that we did that's maybe a little different from a lot of them is that we did not regulate the 501c3. It was a 501c4. The difference of one number is a lot because a 501c4 legal status in the United States allows an organization to force political force bondage, force referendum, sort of lobbying, and to make that a central piece of what we do. So we are able to be very deeply involved in it because feeling that a lot of our partners have been paper. So for instance, in this last round of elections, we endorsed the Mineral Payment. We held mayoral forums, we put candidates and said that right? And that has Kenny's gonna win. But sort of our second choice, she also came to the forum and we developed a good relationship with, right? She did. And those relationships that we built, those actually started to gain some fruit. right?
Yeah.
I've had conversations since then with folks from the mayor's office, and they remember this, right? They remembered our organization, right? And they actually, have asked us if we, say in a particular area, if we'd be willing to serve on one of our the city board, right?
Oh,
And note that electoral work. It's really important, and we haven't shied away from it. We say that we face the realities of the full challenge, and the full challenge of the challenge. And so we wanted to make sure we have the tools to engage with that challenge.
I mean, I live along that corridor personally. I live in south of Austin, and it would be great to not have to get on I-35 every day and trudge through the traffic on my way to work. I could just hop on a train. That's why I was really curious about the Amtrak.
Yeah.
Even though it took twice as long, maybe 3 times as long, I wasn't driving. I got to read my book. I got to talk to the cool people. I got to get a snack. And I think once people realize that, they'll be really encouraged to take a different route, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize how amazing passive transportation is.
Yeah.
I mean, flying being what it is
Yeah.
not the greatest experience, but you get to pull out your book or your phone and play a game or whatever,
Yeah.
like whatever you want to do. Whereas when you're driving, you can't really do that, right?
Yeah.
You have to pay attention. Not everybody does.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. And some people don't want. It's fine. We're not telling people to not drive.
Yeah.
But there's a significant component of people out there that don't want to.
Yeah.
And if we can get them off the road, like ourselves, I think I speak for Jesse. We don't want to drive everywhere we go, and that would free up space for the people who do want to.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win, really.
Yeah.
And I think people don't understand how that's framed that way, right? And there's a lot of barriers in Texas. I'm going to start getting on my soapbox now.
Go for it.
In Texas, the way that the Department of Transportation is funded is primarily through user fees, gas tax, things like that. There's also a significant component that comes from the federal government. And it's a really convoluted way that happens, and that could be a whole topic for another podcast. But essentially, Texas is legally restricted to spending about 98% of their funding on roads only.
Even though it's called the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, so the Texas DOT, TxDOT, originally got started as the Department of Highways.
Yeah.
That's what its original name was. They rebranded at some point, but it still is effectively the Department of Highways. And there's 200,000 lane miles of road in Texas. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of barriers to reallocate some of that funding because there's so much maintenance liability.
They built and built and built and built. And
Yeah.
they're like, we've actually built so much, we can't maintain it.
Yeah. And some of that is federally structured.
Yeah.
Because the way the federal government operates is it gives money to states, and states build the highways, build the interstates.
Yeah.
A lot of that, the way that that's structured is from like the 1950s. And there's a lot of money for new construction. There's not a ton of money for maintenance. So the federal government is essentially incentivizing more new construction, right? I mean, in my opinion, I think we've done it. We've built the interstate system.
Yeah.
We're good. Now we should be maintaining it, and we should think about where capacity is an issue. We should think about other modes that move people more efficiently.
Yeah.
Right. But that's just not happening because there's a lot of statutory things that prevent that. And Texas is no exception. And really it would require, these things are built in the Texas Constitution. It would require a ballot measure. It would require people to vote on it in November to change that.
Yeah.
And that's only if you get it through the legislature, which is a tall order as well. So there's a lot of barriers. One thing I will say is we were involved in a lot of advocacy this past legislative session. We got some bills drafted.
Cool.
Which was really great. A good win for SART. We didn't get any filed.
Okay.
But over 9,000 bills were filed this last session. Only about 18% got filed. So there was, there's a lot of noise, and it was hard to get through. But there's a gentleman out of Georgetown, I think it was Georgetown, Representative Busey, who got hearings on rail-related bills. which doesn't sound like a lot,
Yeah.
but the simple fact that the transportation committees in the House and the Senate were willing to hear it is kind of a lot. I think that shows that the needle is moving. You know, our feedback that we get from certain legislatures is keep bringing it up, keep talking about it.
That's good.
You know, because because it keeps going. Like, you know, you keep bringing it up, and people are finally going to start talking about it. The analogy that I hear a lot is the marijuana thing in Texas.
Yeah.
You know, 10, 15 years ago, like, you'd be crazy to say that like marijuana would be legal here.
Yeah.
Right. Effectively legal. But they had a hearing, and the next legislative session, they had more hearings, and the next legislative session, they ended up passing a bill that legalized it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just got to keep, you know, every 2 years, you got to rev up the effort again. And part of what we did is we recognized that, and we joined a broader coalition called the Texas Streets Coalition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all over the state. And Katie, who is the director of that, she's great. She does a lot of really great coordination efforts. And we joined that, and we're now able to coordinate all our efforts. And it's kind of funny because like SART is one of the few rail groups in that coalition. There's a lot of bike and ped. There's a lot of, you know, stuff like that. A lot of like transit groups and stuff. But we're like one of the few rail ones. And it's ironic because we don't have a rail system. We're the only city in the state that doesn't have a rail
Barely
system.
has one. Houston and Dallas, they have some.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, you know, we're doing a lot of collaboration, and we're doing a lot of coordination, and I think we're organizing. We're starting to line up and you know, really be efficient with our efforts. So that's my tangent on that. Sorry, kind of went off there.
It's okay. Have you guys ever gone to a different state, different countries, experienced really great transit, either rail or buses, and just been inspired to bring that up here?
Yeah, I mean, so the reason I joined SART is because I moved to San Antonio in 2019. I finally made it down here, and I had lived in Seattle. I had lived in upstate New York. You know, I have experienced what rail transit could be and what it could deliver. And I've been overseas to various, you know, to a couple countries overseas that have really strong rail infrastructure. And it's just, you get here and you're like, why isn't it here? You know, like, it's so easy. It's so convenient. It's so nice. You don't have to get to the train station 2 hours before and go through security. You can just literally get there 5 minutes and just walk on a train and you're good to go. You know, like, it's great. And as an urban planner, there's a Goldilocks situation that we have here in Texas.
Yeah.
The Texas Triangle is a perfect candidate for rail.
Yeah.
It's too close or too far to drive. It's too close for flights. It's perfect for rail. And there's so many people that live. I think like, what is it? Like 80% of the people in Texas live in the Triangle.
Yeah.
It's something ridiculous like that. So, you know, yes, that was part of the reason why I joined SART, because we've been all over the place and we've seen how good it can be for rail.
Good ambient noise. Let's get the people.
So I also have had experience with rail. On the one end, for instance, I've been to Japan and I've taken the bullet trains, and they are spectacular. And of course, I would love for that kind of thing in the United States. We do need it. We deserve it, like all people. So good monarch. But honestly, sometimes what inspired me more was when I lived in the United Kingdom. I lived in rural areas of the United Kingdom. I lived in Cornwall, which is the ruralest county in England. And there was trains. I was able to live a far free life in England, in rural area, in a small town, because the train and the bus system was so effective, because they were able to get around. And these were not glamorous trains. Right? I was taking trains that were like 3 cars with the engine built into the first one, right? The kind of, you know, nothing fancy, flat fronted, you know, beat up old things from the 80s. And yet, every day of my life, I was able to use that. It was an effective system. It was a system that moved me from place to place and did so in a reasonable timeline. I could go down to Fall and get drunk with some friends, take a train back at 2 a.m. to a little rural town called Redruth where I lived, and I didn't have to worry about having being on a road. Okay? And that was wonderful. And you know, that kind of system, and it's not like the British with farms, right? They do. But they also have this other option. That for me is just as inspiring. That kind of quotidian, everyday experience, being able to use the rails but just doing your daily life is I think just as inspiring as the bullet train from into Tokyo, right?
When we've all experienced these teeny tiny Texas towns, imagine like Giddings or Cuero or Port Aransas having these train systems taking people places. I mean, it would be so fantastic for that kind of thing to happen in Texas.
And it did exist.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
not a fantasy.
Yeah.
Our ancestors had these things. Right?
Yeah.
Ancestors did exactly what.
They were living in the future 100 years ago.
Nationally, our average train speeds for passenger rails are less than they were at the groups. Right? We had not just more spaces, not just better time, like more frequent trains with faster trains.
I was at the courthouse and I quickly just looked up a picture from like the early 20th century, and there's a picture of the courthouse with a horse and buggy and also a tram or a streetcar. I was like, I just posted modern day picture that I took that same day and picture from 100 years ago. And we got streetcars back then. Why can't we have them now?
Go back, find you find streetcars that are drawn by bulldozers,
Yeah.
mules and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Well, these are not new ideas.
Yeah.
And we do need the new technology. But honestly, our lives would be absolutely so much better with just the 19th century technology, right? It would be better than we are right now. And that's how pitiful the situation is.
And I could add on to this. This is why we partner with a lot of really awesome urbanist organizations because it's all intertwined.
Yeah.
The reason we don't have streetcars and trams anymore is because we don't live like we did 100 years ago.
Yeah.
We live a lot more spread out. We want our space, or we've designed our cities to make us want our space. Sometimes we don't have a lot of options for like living, and you need density. You need to be able to walk a quarter mile to your train station, or your streetcar stop or whatever. Like these things are imperative too. It's all related. So that was the reason why we were so gung ho about transit-oriented development. Technically it wasn't about rail. It was about land use. It's about just density. But we recognize the fact that in order to get rail, in order to get streetcars, you have to have smarter land use patterns to do it too.
You bring up more of the sort of, we've been kind of negative the past couple of minutes, but bring
Sure.
up some positive outcomes that you've experienced over your time at SART.
Yeah, well, I know I mentioned that, we got some bills drafted last session. So that was a big win for us. The TOD, the transit-oriented development stuff, we were at all the meetings for that, or we were at a lot of meetings for that. We were very vocal.
Yeah.
We got that passed. I like to think we helped, I should say.
Yeah, that's good, right?
Yeah, we did. What else? I mean, for us, like, a big win for us is we just had a big membership appreciation dinner. I mean, we're not rookies anymore. We're kind of getting our legs under us and we're being effective. So Jesse didn't mention it. Jesse mentioned that I got appointed by the mayor to be on a board here in the city, but Jesse's also on the multimodal commission. And we wouldn't have been a part of these activities if we weren't involved with SART and SART wasn't a thing. So now we're a stakeholder now. We're at the decision table, which feels good.
Did you anticipate this happening like 5 years ago?
I didn't. I can't speak for Jesse. Maybe he saw this coming.
Sort of, yeah, I guess. I mean, I was new to San Antonio at that point. So, but this is the way this particular path for change. It's not the only path for change. Right? It's the only way we can achieve meaningful change. But this particular advocacy form of path, right? This is what we want, right? Yeah, we want to train people in their boards, get them experience, get them knowledge, and get them out performing the public, and then also have them go into these public commissions so the public doing it that way, and bring that knowledge and experience and into that. We want public, we want those. This is this particular form of change making. This is what we want. So yeah, I mean, did I hope that we would be here? Absolutely. Did I think it was inevitable? Absolutely not. Right? It's been a long haul to get that. But this is the model that we're aiming for.
What do you think? What do you anticipate happening in the next 5 years?
I'd like to see that we see this rail to Austin move into an official plan of the negotiation stage. Even in the best of circumstances, you can't build a train over it.
Yeah.
You don't want to. They have to be done right. They have to be done safely. It has to be planned so that it meets the equity needs of the population and plans for the future. So this is not a quick thing. Nobody has an illusion about it. But I would love to see us in a situation where we're starting to think about actual laying out the plan, budgeting, getting those negotiations with communities and all that. But also like to see a situation where we have another bond issue coming up in a couple of years here in San Antonio. Public bond. I'd like to see rail-based projects, including a major improvement to our central station, which is just terrible. We call it the Gam Shack, right? That we want to see major improvements to that station to make it into a proper station for 60 million people.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like a Greyhound station from the 70s, right? It needs to be better. We deserve better, right? So I'd like to see that included in there. And I'd like to see our public in our next rounds of local elections where rail becomes a point of debate, where they're forced to just have a public position and people see.
Next 5 years, my hope is that we get some wins. And I think what Jesse's describing, having some bonds for rail improvements was huge, and I hope that our activities are laying the groundwork to show people that would be a good thing for public investment. We have a beautiful station and it's in a really awesome district. It's called St. Paul Square. A lot of history there, it's like a jazz quarter, things like that. A lot of those original buildings are still there. And, if you go to other countries and you see successful train station models, you see a lot of amenities around train stations, right? And that's part of the reason why people use them.
Yeah.
You can go to the station, get a coffee, get something to eat, wait for your train and people watch and whatever. We have all the bones for that. You could do that here. Now, I don't know about Austin. I actually think that the Amtrak station.
It's right next to the YMCA on Cesar Chavez, but it's kind of tucked in its own little alley. It's not in a great spot.
Yeah. And that's not the case for San Antonio.
We
just don't use it. Yeah. I mean,
it's a nightclub.
Yeah. The old historic train station is an event venue now.
Yeah.
And devil's advocate, at least it's getting some life and activation and people are using it still.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Not, the windows aren't falling out and stuff,
Yeah.
So that's nice. But we would like to see a return to more train-centered activity. And it would be amazing to see that district come alive again in a really robust way. And there's a lot of efforts right now. There's already private efforts happening. And, you see a lot of successes in my line of work when public and private investment line up. We're hoping to see some of those wins in the next 5 years.
I mean, you have a new Spurs stadium being built, correct?
They're hashing out the details.
Yeah.
We've all agreed in the city that where it potentially will go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine incorporating rail into the Alamo Dome, this new stadium that may or may not happen, or the convention center, and all these really great locations in San Antonio. And we've all experienced that kind of transportation. San Antonio is already a great tourist hub. Let's move these people who want to experience San Antonio in a much more efficient and better way.
Yeah. There's a quote that I really like. So if you build it for tourists, no one will go. But if you build it for locals, everyone will go. And if we can create a robust train system that services the local population, it becomes a tourist magnet on its own organically. And if people could fly into San Antonio and go to an FC Austin game, right, with proper transportation.
Yeah.
People could fly into Austin and go to a Spurs game with proper transportation.
Yeah.
And go back that night,
Rail to and from the airport also.
Right. Yeah. And the Green Line is our best rapid transit.
Yeah.
That I think they're breaking ground soon if they haven't already. That's going to be effectively our quote unquote rail.
Okay.
It's a rail on rubber, if you will. But that's going from the airport and it's going to be a spine down the city.
Okay.
And that's a start.
Yeah.
So that's good. I don't know. You have anything you want to add to that?
You got any statewide stuff that you think you want to see in 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see some funding for rail. We don't fund rail at all. And we identified last legislative session, SART did, that there's funding that goes for congestion mitigation and air quality, CMAQ is what they call it. That funding just goes right back into building highways. It's kind of ironic, right?
Yeah.
There's a way, and I won't bore your audience with the details, but there's a fund already established for rail improvement.
Yeah.
It's just never been funded. So they opened a bank account, the state legislature did years and years ago, decades at this point. They just never deposited any money into it. There's some stuff you can do. They can get some nominal funding.
Yeah.
And that would help you leverage, the Infrastructure Act that happened under the Biden administration was incredible. And the pendulum swings, there's always funding that comes through and then it goes back and we don't fund it again. But if we have something in the state of Texas, a little fund set aside, once that pendulum swings back and there's another infrastructure bill from the federal government, if we have some money that we can leverage, we could put in there and say, as a matching funds or something, we might be able to secure some of those rail-based funds for us. Because right now we're not positioned to do that. We just don't have the statewide planning for that.
And it seems like Texas is just like the place to build this kind of thing. Like we have a GDP that matches some countries and they have transit. We have sports teams and airport hubs and all this great transportation, economic, participation, but we don't have high quality rail.
Yeah. And so we have the benefit of growing incredibly fast. And it just won't stop. It didn't seem to be stopping. I think people are starting to understand that there's a lot of problems with that growth. We also have the great benefit of having a lot of available land. So we can keep spreading out. That doesn't help. But I think we're starting to realize that there's a lot of externalities when you start spreading out like that too. It's expensive for cities to do that, to maintain all that infrastructure. So people are starting to understand that density is financially smarter as well as, comfortably, livably smarter. As we keep growing, I think people are starting to see that the traffic along 35 is just too crazy. The traffic in Houston is nuts. I was in Houston last week.
Yeah.
And, 1:00 in the afternoon, there's bumper to bumper in some parts. It's just like you can't avoid it. And it's because that's only one mode of transportation that we have. Speaking to your point, yeah, we're a big state. We have a lot of productivity and we're making a lot of money here. I think we're maturing and we're getting to the point where we're going to start having to have mature conversations where maybe we need to start building our infrastructure in different ways.
I love to ask this question to anybody who I'm interviewing. What are some books that you have read in the past or recently on city planning, rail, anything that you would recommend people pick up?
Okay, books.
Books.
So there's a couple. So there's a book called The Equity Planner by Jason King. I would recommend picking that up. I've read that recently. There's a book called A City is Not a Computer. And it's our obsession with organizing us in machinist ways, straight lines and things like that. That's not how we are as organisms in a society. I recommend that book too. In terms of rail specific books, I don't know. I don't think I've read one recently. Maybe Jesse has one.
Okay. Recently, I've been reading Murder on the Blue Tree by Fiston. She's, you think mostly about Murder on the Orient Express, right?
Yeah.
On the Blue Train about murder. It's included between on the train comparison at the Riviera. I think why this book is because this book is so phenomenally woven into an understanding of how trains operate in an everyday life. Like the people coming and going on and off a train, even an overnight train, and interacting with the train on the train, and you have to understand trains to commit the crime, to solve the crime. They do it while on the train, right? In a complicated way that is part of their lives, right? That they don't think about. And I think if you live in a place where you haven't had experience with trains, and you can't think about how that, you think about it as this free ship on rails, which is the way we oftentimes our long distance Amtrak trips. It's all with this fancy cruise ship on rails. And honestly, I've taken an Amtrak that way, and it's gorgeous. If you're national park, all that. But if you want to think about like how when people are actually living in a train culture, what does that look? How does that feel? And I suggest that with the Christy Thurber.
That is the first fiction book. It's always just like nonfiction, transit. Great.
It's the language that they
Well, I think that's all the questions I have. Where can people get a hold of you?
for sanantonio.com, and you can find us and
Twitter, Blue Sky,
Twitter, Blue
all that
Sky,
stuff.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you. Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. Okay.
we don't recognize it.
Okay. Cool.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. X. That's how that. Obviously, I don't run our social media account.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much for taking the time. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely.
If you're enjoying the show, leave a rating or a like. It's a small gesture that goes a long way in helping other urbanists find the show. Now back to the show.